No, that's a corny song, but it makes you feel good to sing it, don't it? Yeah. So this is PowerPoint 10. Nice presentation, right? My new computer, yeah. Yeah, I know. It's prosperity, baby. Okay. So, all right. So we have a theme, giving and receiving, that we're working with this month of November for obvious reasons, given that the Thanksgiving holiday it's coming up. Today's like the 15th already, right? Yeah. So thank God it's not April. No. So, okay. So in this idea of giving and receiving, we are working with one of the Science of Mind books, a very popular one called Living the Science of Mind and Spirit. And this is a very practical approach to the theoretical approach that Holmes explores somewhat exhaustively in the textbook that we decided last week, or at least I decided last week, to call it our handbook, that shows us how to best utilize this philosophy and this way of life that we call the Science of Mind and Spirit. And so today's talk title is Substance and Supply, and we often hear these terms around here and in churches like this, which is called a New Thought Church, if you haven't been here before. And I think that people who have been exposed to this teaching in whatever way, right? So even if it's just something like seeing the movie The Secret, or even watching some of Oprah's stuff, that I think people generally or have a general sense of what this idea is when we say substance and supply, and specifically what substance is. After all, what we say around here, our little tagline, is that there is a power for good in the universe available to everyone, to you and to me, and we can use it. And this implies that there is some value-added effect or outcome when we engage this power to address the human condition. And in addressing the need in our lives, through the practice of the Science of Mind teaching, we come to learn that there are two aspects, thought and substance, that while they may appear to be separate things, they are, in fact, two aspects of one indivisible whole. Whole with a W, not the hole that you dig. All right. Although sometimes you can dig yourself a hole. Yeah. So, two aspects of an indivisible whole, and it is intelligence, truth, life, love, soul, spirit, and principle. And you may recognize those as the 7 aspects of God from Thomas Troward. So we also come to learn that our word has power, and yet even deeper than that our thought itself has power. And by changing the tendency of our thought around any condition in our life, we can first alter and then ultimately change that condition according to our relative belief, which is the strength of our conviction to the belief in the shifted outcome. So I think this is a pretty bold claim to make. Right? So just where do we get the authority to make such a claim? And I would say, well, besides the fact that these ideas, at least to me, appear to be self-evident, there are scriptural references, and I think really even directives that we can draw upon. So I wanted to start with this quote from Mark, and this is, there's a lot of different Bibles out there. This happens to be one from the Aramaic, and it actually says in plain English, which I think is amusing. So, for amen, I say to you, whoever shall say to this mountain, be lifted up and fall into the sea, and will not doubt in his heart, but shall believe that thing which he says, anything that he says shall be done for him. So that from the mouth of the carpenter himself, and from Mark, right? So the first book. So many scholars think that Jesus actually said the things that are in Mark, which is not the case always in the New Testament. So if prayer is, that's a whole other thing. So if prayer is the activity of bringing to spirit that which we desire, should not this directive, this idea of bringing strong belief, this directive of belief, be woven into the words, the thoughts, and even the feelings of the prayer being presented? Just check and see if you're paying attention. So, yes, absolutely. You bet. I'm all in. Yes. And this is what is meant when we say, if you've ever heard the expression that the answer to the prayer is in the prayer itself. This is what is meant by that. And it's kind of one of those things that may sound a little esoteric, but it really is not esoteric at all. Now, for me, and I suspect for many others, the challenge then is how to maintain our faith in the power of prayer when our demonstration, right, of this philosophy, of this teaching, when our demonstrations are a mixed bag. Or more accurately, we believe we are getting mixed results. So in some areas, we often find that our consciousness is strong. Man, it is solid, unshakable, and I'm a power for good in the universe. And then in other areas, maybe not so much. You know, I do believe in spooks. I do believe in spooks, or whatever it is. All right. So those places where we're standing on shaky ground, ever since you put me down, sorry. And sometimes this mixed results is when we feel that we are in the areas that our faith is not quite what we would like it to be. Let's put it that way. But you know, the funny thing about that is even Holmes says this, by appearing, so when prayers appear to not be answered, right, and we don't really believe that they're being answered, we are actually demonstrating this law that we're teaching by demonstrating the fact that we don't believe it. Yeah, ain't that a kick in the pants? So, why does it work? Why does it work? Right? Well, I think the why and the how are kind of one and the same thing. Right? It works because there's only one thing at work in the universe. There's only one power, not one power and something else. One perfect God expressing as perfect life. Now, this can be a challenge when we are witnessing the unfolding events in a place like Paris. But unfortunately, this is not really news anymore. Unfortunately, these types of acts and the barbarism and the suffering and the real anguish attached to them have become more commonplace than we would like. And so our faith may be challenged. But the truth is, even in this sad state of affairs, even in that wounded heart or that job you don't like, or a health diagnosis that you may be struggling with, the truth is there's only one perfect God expressing as perfect life. There's only one God, one power, one spirit, one life. That life is perfect, and that life is my life now. So I want you to put your hand over your heart. Just bring your awareness that there's something a thumping in there. And just recognize with me that there's only one life. Say it with me. There's only one life. That life is perfect. That life is my life now. There's only one life. That life is perfect. That life is my life now. Now, how do you feel when you say that? Feels pretty good, right? Even if there's some part of you that's saying, you're fibbing. But you still feel good. And I'll tell you something else. Even if you feel like you're fibbing when you're saying it, you're going to feel better doing it. And not only that, you will shift, I guarantee it, you will shift the thought behind that until you have lifted it entirely. It's a very simple practice. There's only one life. That life is perfect. That life is my life now. And this is an important thing for me to remember because I sometimes get in my own way. I have an inherent aspect to my nature, that being my Irishosity, that sometimes, not that I'm naming and claiming that, but I do recognize that there is a reactive side to my nature that I would like to express in a more harmonious, peaceful, appropriate, non-Vesuvian way. Okay, Mount St. Helens when it's really bad. Yeah, there's no flow of lava. It's like kablooey. Everybody runs for cover. And I would like, and you know what? It's better than it was. Just as I know for you that the things that challenge you in your life, because I know you're all harmonious and peaceful beings of light, but the things that you are working with are the things that you work with. And that you're better today than you've ever been in your life. That's the truth. You are better now today than you've ever been in your life. In fact, this is your best life now. Because there's only one life. And that life is perfect. And that life is expressing as you and me right now. So the good of God present in all things. Even in a ringtone. The good of God is present in all things. It is substance and supply with a little bit of rock in it. So, okay, what is substance? So we hear this stuff. Your battery has died. Can you hear me? Well, let me try this. How's this? My God voice. And I'll try not to shout. The good of God is present in all things. It is the substance and supply. So what is substance? We often hear it, and I think we intuitively know what it is. What is supply? So this I found in the glossary. Yes, I did find it in the glossary. And that is this, that substance is the formless back of all forms, that primordial substance is the ultimate formless stuff from which all things come. Clear as mud, right? All right. So this I found from our friends at Unity in the Metaphysical Bible, which if you don't have one of those, it's really a pretty cool book, particularly if you like things biblical. This definition, that substance is an idea in divine mind, an attribute of being, is the spiritual essence which all things are made. It is visible and comprehensible to mind, but the five senses of man cannot apprehend. So one forms a consciousness of substance by dwelling in mind on the idea of the substantial abidingness of being and the eternal reality of all true substance. So believe it or not, Holmes actually simplifies that. very simply when he says simply this: substance and supply. Substance is the cause, and supply is the effect. Substance is the cause, supply is the effect. So again, one forms a consciousness of substance by dwelling in mind on the idea of the substantial abidingness of being and the eternal reality of all true substance, which basically means that we recognize the unity in all things, that there's only one life, there's only one God, one life. That life is perfect. That life is expressing as my life right now. So then thought, then, is the process in mind by which substance is acted on by energy. This is Holmes. Directed by intelligence. So thought is the movement of idea in mind. Now, substance then is made, since we can't see it with the five senses, substance is made visible to the sense man by man's thought. So if you're one of those who likes to sit around and think deep thoughts, this is a good thing, right? If they're deep thoughts of good. So substance is made visible to the sense man by man's thought. However, he does not see it as it is in being, but as it appears to our limited understanding. Now that could seem like maybe bad news, except when we remember that we are the best, I'm the best me today that I've ever been me before. If that's proper use of things, right? That you are the best person, the best you that you have ever been before. And so we are continually unraveling this mystery of that sacred component, the substance of life itself, expressing as our life. Because we are growing in awareness of this truth. And so we start to see and experience God in ways great and small. Now, sometimes this is not always easy. And Holmes recognizes this because he says that men have not recognized this substance because their mind has been centered on effect instead of cause, on manifestation in matter instead of the idea of that manifestation. That the truth is that heaven is the realm. Heaven is the realm of divine ideas. Omnipresent, eternal, and substance is one of these divine ideas. Now, it's difficult to square events like those things that have happened in Paris this past weekend. It's difficult to square, I think, at least I struggle with it sometimes, with our philosophy and our constant focus on God is good and only good, and that we have a right to live, a divine right, really, to live in prosperous ways, and that it often looks from the outside like we're a little gang of gimme jimmies just trying to get more stuff. And yet our teaching and our philosophy is calling us to go much deeper, that the material things that we are demonstrating through the power of mind, and yes, it is the nature of the universe to create itself in your life as prosperity. This is true, right? And we use that demonstration as to build an even deeper foundation of knowing that the only thing at work here is the presence of God itself. So that when we demonstrate a car, a job, a new sweetheart, maybe the perfect song, or we finally wrote that book that we've been struggling with, right? But once we make those smaller demonstrations, it allows us to step into confidence to pray for peace in Paris, knowing there's One life. That life is perfect. That life is my life now, and in some weird, mysterious, comic chain of events, that even this tragedy and all the pain and the suffering and the lack of compassion and the ignorance and the raw brutality contained within it is unfolding in some cosmic order. It doesn't make any sense. So the only thing that I can make of such things, so, as you know, I'm close to the old sod. So whether it's looking at things in Northern Ireland or Beirut, Israel, Rwanda, Oklahoma City, Syria, New York City, or even now Paris, to me it's like there's a gigantic cosmic billboard holding up again one more time, right? It's up to us to do something. Actually, really what it is? It's a mirror. It's not a billboard. It's a mirror reflecting back to us those aspects within our own consciousness that are demonstrating as race consciousness through these knuckleheads, the cosmic knuckleheads, who are expressing these horrible acts. Right? So it's like... it's like the dysfunctional person in our family demonstrating all the craziness and chaos. It's just a gigantic human family expressing that dysfunction. And even with all of that, it's better today than it's ever been. We're just more aware of it. So, what's this cosmic mirror doing? Well, it's to get our attention, that as Reverend Jessica was speaking to earlier, that we must address and become the divine idea where we must be the change we wish to see in the world. We must continue to stand. We must continue to stand for the basic human rights of all peoples, to work to relieve the conditions of lack and suffering and inhumanity that are fueling the fire of such desperate acts. And we need to do that with the ballot box. We need to do it with our feet. We need to do it with our treasure. We need to do it in opening ourselves up to creative ways that we can support life rather than support the structures that allow these things to continue. For the master teacher Jesus has taught that the poor will always be with us. And I don't know if the Buddha said it, but he might have when he said the ignorant will always be with us as well. Because in the Buddha's teaching, people act out of ignorance, right? And to strap on a vest full of explosive and nails and all that, that's about as dumb as you can get. So, continue to pray. Pray for Paris, pray for our country, pray for yourselves. Pray that all peoples awaken sooner rather than later to the expression of the universal ideas of intelligence, truth, life, love, soul, spirit, and principle, expressing as peace, as love, and harmony for all peoples in the unique gift and the way that you are in the world. You don't have to be Jesus, right? You don't have to be the Lord Buddha. You just have to be who you are and stand in the courage and conviction that there's only one life. That life is perfect. That life is my life now. And I'm here to give testimony to it. All right, so let's call our musicians up. Amen. Yes.